So this is week 3, and it's going to be an introduction to body memory. And you might be thinking, why are we going to talk about memories? But it's very important because I promise every single one of you, if you're working with anybody who's struggling to stay in the now with the information you give them, they are not quite clear consciously what's happening with the distress between, like, I know what I need to do, but. So when you hear that, when I know what I need to do, but I can't get myself to do it, it has less to do with resistance at all and more to do with there's a part of them that feels like basically the food is the threat, and what we might be asking of them might also be a threat or a problem. We're going to talk about starting the conversation around polyvagal and how to introduce a window of tolerance and introducing all of this nervous system work to your clients. And we're going to connect the dots of helping people see through their food, almost like the food is the warning signal sometimes, like to what might be happening in their system, to be able to identify that. And then we'll have a little bit of a case study to talk through. And throughout this talk, I'm going to be asking Fiona a lot to interject with some of the didactic and some of the information I'm going to be sharing of what this might look like in our own bodies and maybe with clients or people in our life. So it'll be pretty packed. And I will say that past cohorts have felt like this was a lot of information. So again, we're going to encourage you to only go as fast as the slowest parts of you can go with this as well and not feel like you're supposed to memorize this today. And so that leads us to our setup. You have your feet and your seat and your back. To literally have your back when you don't know if you know enough, because maybe you don't, and none of us do, and that's okay. We don't know enough, but we know most of the time more than our clients do about what's happening that feels like so much for them. They have that experience, but we have lots of years of experience too, and this will also take us years to learn how to teach polyvagal with the flow to it, or the window of tolerance with the flow to it, or understand everything that you're learning here. So use your body as a resource today. Use your feet and your seat and your back. All right. So we're going to just kind of jump in a little bit about body memory. And I want us to remember that we are humans too. And so let's do another little experiential real quick.
To notice how this feels for us, and then that shift into how we can actually use our body as a resource, our body and our environment as well, as a resource to be able to anchor back into now time. Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, you are human too. We have experiences with certain people or certain expectations as well of people. And I think that weighs heavy on us as clinicians because we are here giving information. So let's say you've had clients, we've all had clients that come to us thinking that we have the right meal plan for them. And there may be a level of both anticipation, and that's going to be helpful, but they've also maybe had bad experiences with being instructed how to deal with having a body. And they're going to have they're going to have body, like I said, tenseness maybe in their bodies when they come to see us, that we've never had experience with them. So they already come in tense, and I already know that's body memory. That has never happened with me before or you before, but they're already in that space. That tells me like something's happened that was a little bit threatening for their systems just to be even in a space that's supposed to be helpful. And in trauma-informed dietetic care, we already want to know that coming in, that people have already had experiences that they will be projecting on us. So when people have body memories, they're going to be elicited by the current experiences they're having with us. So we want to understand is what is happening now feel familiar to them when we have less of a choice or a resource to feel our window about that. We will start to experience a change in our threat or social engagement system, as well as can we be a match for what they needed then and now versus be too familiar to the past. And that's going to create that misattunement. So we are going to practice the rest of this session here, and what we want you to just be aware of as you work with clients is helping people practice and ourselves practice being in now time in that memory time. So we're going to call memory time basically the sensations and feelings that our bodies are holding from the past that aren't necessarily happening now with food or body image or whatever, but our clients are feeling that again as if it's then, but it's not happening right now. So it sounds kind of confusing and complex, but we're going to talk about why that is in a second. So we're going to keep talking about the phrase of what's too much or what is missing, because our clients are going to have they're going to have this somatic, sensory, emotional charge in their systems when something was too much from the past or something is missing, like basically care was missing. So what we know about PTSD is basically people who have had PTSD, chronic stress, we talked about that in module 1 or week 1, is that we can have persistent memories of past events even happening now, but it also what happens with PTSD, it keeps the past discomfort, too much, not enough, replaying, and it inhibits now time, basically cognition and memory sometimes to land, which is one of the reasons why we do a lot of our nutrition counseling. We feel like we say the same things over and over and over again, but that's because it takes a long time for new neural pathways, something new to exist, to land, basically. So our clients will have intrusive thoughts and fears about past events that are going to impact their ability to regulate their systems right here and right now with us. And then when this happens, when people's body memory arises, so again, this is going to be a little didactic for a few minutes, and if it helps you to think about your experience with this course of recognizing this is all brand new, we're trying to help you create a landing pad for all this information to arrive. Just think about that if we have maybe some somatic memory about having to know all the things and get it right and not get in trouble, you might have more charge in your system today than somebody else would. So just kind of keeping that in mind today as well. So when our clients have thought, their defensive strategies will arise to change their state and what they are thinking about. So when we challenge the use of people's behavior, so when I say challenge, I mean gently, of course, meaning what the function of it is. We are challenging a person with somewhat of an impaired ability to remember what is the next right thing memory-wise. So we've often heard that phrase, what the next right thing to do. And then you have a client that actually just can't access that. They're likely in memory time in the moment maybe that was instructed, or they're just having a hard time remembering because that threat response is so high. So again, even if you've educated people on the nervous system, it's going to take many, many repetitions to help this land. So again, don't feel like you're saying it wrong or doing it wrong. Timing matters, of course, which we'll talk about later, but a lot of this has to do, but we're talking about memories. We're setting it up for you to understand why in some people it takes longer, and some people, they get it the second time you say it and they're off to the races with it. So we want to notice in our own systems when our clients are in memory time, so that we can connect over and over again to what it is good enough right now, like what's relatively safe enough, good enough, and then work on the strategies of things we want to work on. So I would love to interject myself and ask if anybody, you could just raise your hand. How often do you notice this in session where it's like, didn't we just kind of talk about that? Or like, haven't we been doing this for 6 months? And then what's missing here? When you feel like, what am I doing? What's missing? I see the hands raised. Good. Yeah. So there's something happening in this inability to stay in the present and now time to take all of it in. It's not just that it does take a long time. It takes a really long time to, dismantle fat phobia, let's say internally. It does. But it's not all cognitive that some people are missing. Sometimes it's just the ability to stay in the now because something in the now feels like the past. Okay. So, again, we're going to talk about a little bit of complex stuff here today. Please don't feel like you need to know it. I'm just going to keep reminding you because it took me personally about a year to figure out the difference and feel the difference in a session and what's happening. So explicit memory. What explicit memory is, just as a new concept, is our autobiographical memory of an event or experience. It